ampun. Siete colorecito. Sinchi manchay manchay sin. Espíritu peledito.
This story takes place during the rainy season, when the rivers flood the land and threaten to destroy the homes of one of the largest Amazonian tribes, the Ashaninka. To reach their villages, I first had to make my way to Atalaya, a small jungle town where the Ashaninka come to trade and sell their goods. Here I hired a boat that took 9 hours upriver to reach the village of Shayamashi. Since there are no roads in the central Peruvian Amazon, the only way to travel long distances is via the river. As a result, it sometimes takes people a few days to reach their desired destination. The Ashaninka were once ferocious warriors who fought anyone who attempted incursions into their territory. Over the centuries, they have had erratic contacts with missionaries, traders and the military, which have introduced new elements to their society, like shotguns, metal tools and Western clothing. However, they still live a traditional lifestyle, believing that the forest and the river spirits control the balance in their environment. It was late afternoon when I arrived in Shayamashi. Since this is my third visit to this village, the people are accustomed to me by now and don't pay much attention to me filming them. The families are making canoes in preparation for the coming floods. The children are uneasy due to all the activity and noise, but somehow their parents manage to calm them down. The women say that a long time ago a giant spider came to their village and taught them how to spin and sew. Since then, the Ashaninka have divided their daily chores into tasks which are performed by the women, the spinners, and those done by the men, the hunters. They both share the custom of decorating their faces with achiote powder and wearing kushmas, a traditional tunic. The older women are making masato, a light alcoholic beverage similar to beer. It is made by chewing and spitting sweet potato, which is then boiled with cooked yucca and Amazonian tuber. The beverage is left to ferment overnight, and in the morning it is ready to drink. This is the only drink the Ashaninka have to offer their guests. My hosts in the village are Miriam and her family. I asked her to help me capture the everyday life of her family and the village, and she agreed because of my friendship with a missionary who has helped her a lot. Hospitality is very important to the Ashaninka, so Miriam is pleased to be able to offer me an Amazonian fish speciality, patarashka.
A ver, rema. Tu derecha, tu derecha.
Meanwhile, Miriam's husband, Rover, teaches his son to use an oar. Paddling is one of the most important skills to master in the Amazon, and children begin learning it at an early age.
Volteamos acá. El lagarto nos come. Y si no tiene mayonesa nos va a vomitar igualito nomás. Rápido, hijo, rápido, cuidado. Ya llega la noche, ya. Vamos hacia la casa. No, y de repente tiene suerte de que
The following morning, Rover and Miriam tell me that they have to clear the scrub and brush from their garden. It is very difficult for one family to complete the chore of clearing their garden by themselves. And so Rover has requested the help of his neighbours in order to accomplish this task before the coming floods. This is the first time I had noticed how important the community is to these people, and I understood why they call themselves Ashaninka, which means our people. Without each other's help, they could never survive in the Amazon's formidable jungle. The villagers have to root out the forest around the gardens regularly. If they don't, the forest's growth will quickly envelop their gardens. This chore requires care, as they must be watchful not to disturb the wild bees in their hives, whose painful and potent stings are one of the many dangers in the Amazon.
Cuidado.
The Ashaninka believe that the land belongs to those who work it, and that no one has the right to sell it. They say that only Mother Earth can claim ownership of the land. The people are careful to replant what they've harvested from the land. In this way, the balance of nature in the forest is not disturbed, and the spirits will not be angered. Yucca, banana, rice and sugarcane are the main crops that the Ashaninka cultivate in their gardens. Some fruits, like pineapple and papaya, also grow naturally. After harvesting the produce from the garden, the people return home. The Ashaninka will need to trade or sell some of their produce, along with some chickens and some of their catch from fishing and hunting, in order to obtain salt, sugar, oil, ammunition and other necessities they lack. Some men remain in the forest to cut firewood for Rover's house. While the neighbours are helping her husband Rover to clear their garden, Miriam prepares a dinner for everyone who helps. As night approaches, Miriam tells me that the changing of the seasons and the transitions between day and night were created out of music by the mythical Ashaninka being called Avireri. When night arrives, the people smoke tobacco, chew coca leaves and drink masata. Many evenings the neighbours gather at Miriam's home to talk about the news from other villages. The night usually ends with everyone dancing and singing together while improvising words to the songs.
tampua tätä jotta. Nää kun mun paat sinut tampua tätä. Niin mä
Every morning, while the forest is still dark, a young boy, Joel, prepares bait from yucca for hunting birds. Joel is old enough to go hunting alone in the nearby forest around his settlement. He will spend hours hidden in a maspute, a hunter's blind made from palm branches, waiting for his prey to come. This little bird is too small. Joel won't waste his arrow on it, but he's encouraged. He hopes that this tiny bird's pecking will attract a bigger one to feed. The little bird might even attract a tapir, which would be a feast for Joel's family and would make him a proud young hunter. After a few hours, Joel leaves his masputa empty-handed. As he returns home, he says that big birds also enjoy yucca, and tomorrow could be his day. The only thing that dismays Joel about returning empty-handed is the probable teasing he will receive from his family. His father, Alberto, is a famous hunter who caught a monkey for soup this morning. So Joel's mother and sister Claudina tease Joel for his failure at hunting. Miriam and Rover have decided to visit Alberto's family, who live 5 minutes away by boat. The 50,000 Ashaninkas live in the small communities on the vast territory scattered along 5 rivers. Thus, everyone has enough space for hunting and fishing. Since each family dwelling is scattered some distance apart along the river, maintaining good relationships with their neighbours and visits such as these make them feel less isolated. When visiting other families, guests need to bring a gift for their neighbours. Although this is only a symbolic gesture, Rover would be happier if he had caught a deer or a wild boar, and was able to offer some meat to his neighbours instead of pineapple.
Hola Blanca, ¿cómo estás? Hola, signora. Te cas piarence? Pipena te epchogi. Ya, vamos.
When the guests arrive, the hosts immediately offer them masato. One of the ways a family's reputation is measured is based on how much masato they have prepared. It is a somewhat unpleasant thought that masato is made by chewing and spitting sweet potato into boiled yucca. And the Ashaninka realise that outsiders like myself are not comfortable with consuming it. But it is important to drink it when it is offered to you, so as not to offend your host. The trick is not to drink it too fast, because when you finish one bowl, another one will immediately be offered to you. When I drank it, I instantly won the respect of Alberto's family. They have asked us to stay for dinner, and Blanca, Alberto's wife, begins preparing yucca, which is the main accompaniment to every meal. While waiting for dinner, Alberto and Rover chew on some coca leaves. This is an opportunity to relax and exchange news, or to discuss anything they have on their minds. When difficult times come to pass, the neighbours will count on each other's help, and their survival will depend on how united they are.
Poka poka takicha, no have to the chaka, ashe se wankitaki, ashe se wankitaki, ashe taki chaka, inkani ne inkani, ikanzu jahaweto, ikanzu jahaweto, pikakite kyario, arita ke pimai. Arita ke pimai.
The Ashaninka believe that the god Tassarensi created everything in the world, but he left ownership of the river to Kiatsi. Kiatsi appears as a giant boa and casts a spell of high fever over those who catch more fish than they need. If Rover catches too many fish this morning, he will share his catch with his neighbours. This way, Kiatsi will be appeased. The people wake up very early in the Amazon. By 6:30 they have all begun their daily chores. Every morning, little Claudina fetches the water for her mother to use for the day's cooking and washing. From an early age, the children imitate what their parents do and assist them in every way they can. The girls remain at home to help their mothers, while the boys accompany their fathers on fishing or hunting excursions. It is customary for Ashaninka parents to arrange marriages for their children. Once married, the newlyweds will live with the bride's family. This old custom is slowly changing, though, and nowadays some couples may marry based on their love for each other. Today is the last day of school, and although school is important to the children, they will usually not advance beyond an elementary level. Once they finish primary school, they will normally remain in the village, get married, and start their families. School facilities and resources are limited. Fortunately, this teacher continues to work with the children despite receiving a small, irregular salary. All the pupils are taught in the same classroom, no matter what their age or grade, and classes always begin with a song. The rainy season has just begun, and for the next 5 months, life in the jungle will completely change. The first flood has brought this big lizard to the front step of Miriam's and Rover's house. It is too small to attack people, even children, but it could take on smaller domestic animals. Out of precaution for this and other dangers that the floods bring, Miriam's family collects their chickens and put them in a roost. The chickens will remain penned up there until the floods retreat. Miriam's neighbours have come to help her family again. This time they have brought chapaya palm branches to construct a new roof for the chicken roost. The new roof will take them over an hour to complete. The branches are bound with atatijo strings. The finished roof should last for a few years. With all the children and the neighbours in the house, it is very difficult for Miriam and Rover to find some time just for themselves. And when they do find some privacy, their youngest son, Carlo, always seems to have a reason to disturb them. As the rains continue, the neighbours begin to visit each other more often to exchange news about the flood. Alberto comes to see how his neighbours are getting along. Some families who live very close to the main river have already had to abandon their homes. Fortunately, they are able to take temporary refuge with Miriam and Rover. While the neighbours live with Miriam and Rover, they are treated as part of the family, and they are welcome to stay as long as they need. The flood's dirty waters bring typical rainy season health problems, such as stomach aches, diarrhea and eye infections. In order to cure these illnesses, the Ashaninka use many kinds of piri-piri. They also use piri-piri to remove curses that have been cast by evil shaman, and during war they would spread piri-piri all over their bodies to protect themselves from the attacks of enemy arrows and bullets. This is why piri-piri is a sacred plant for the Ashaninka. Miriam has been interested in medicinal plants since an early age. Although she is not a shaman, her neighbours often visit her when sick to seek free treatment. Miriam is preparing some piri-piri to treat her neighbour's son for a stomachache he got after swimming in the dirty waters of the swollen river. The boy drinks the piri-piri tea that Miriam has made, and then chews on the roots. Also, as part of his treatment, the boy spits the masticated piri-piri all over the infected area. He will repeat this every few hours until he has fully recovered. While the neighbours live in Miriam and Rover's house, they help in any way they can. In this way, they maintain their dignity and keep an equal balance between themselves and their neighbours. The Ashaninka live by the motto, never take anything without giving something in return. It rained throughout the night, and nobody had much sleep. The dogs were barking in fear of the crocodiles, which potentially could swim up under the houses in search of food. The people repeatedly have to repair the damage that the floods have caused during the night. Although the water surrounds them, it is still considered safe to stay in the village. The women check every corner of the house to make sure that no snakes or scorpions have crawled in, trying to escape the flood. The pigs are now exposed to attacks from the crocodiles. So the people have to bring them into their houses, where they will all live together until the floods retreat. The pigs are not the most grateful housemates in the world. Most of the night they are grunting, snorting and passing winds. Miriam and Rover have decided to visit their neighbours and to bring them some yucca from the garden. During the rainy season, most of the gardens become submerged, so yucca is scarce, and it is therefore always a thoughtful gift to bring along when visiting your neighbours. Even during the hardship of the floods, the Ashaninka immediately replant what they take from the land, and nothing is as important to them as replanting yucca, because it is their primary source of sustenance. The Ashaninka believe that yucca was a gift from the moon. They also believe that in the early morning the moon washes its face in the river, and that this is the best time to plant the yucca tubers. This small village is less than 10 minutes away by boat from Miriam and Rover's place, but the swollen river has already forced the families to abandon their homes. The school is also flooded, but even if the flood forced the Ashaninka to desert their homes, they don't consider it tragic. In this circumstance, they believe the river spirits want them to move on, and that their journey may lead them to a new home where the land is more fertile and richer in game. On the other side of the forest, in an area beyond the floods, lives Tosho, an Ashaninka shaman who heals his people with the most mysterious Amazonian plant, ayahuasca. Tosho learned how to use medicinal plants from other shamans in his tribe. It took him 3 years to master the use of ayahuasca. The shaman uses the lianas of ayahuasca to make a hallucinogenic drink. The visions he has after drinking it allow him to recognize his patient's illnesses and to diagnose a cure. Some say that during their ayahuasca sessions, the shaman's soul can even fly to another dimension and speak with the spirit world. To prepare the ayahuasca for consumption, the shaman cuts the lianas into small pieces and softens them by beating them. This makes the woody vines easier to cook. The shaman puts chacruna leaves between the 2 layers of ayahuasca lianas. Only the right combination of chacruna leaves and ayahuasca lianas will produce strong hallucinations. The beverage takes 5 hours to make in a ritualistic procedure. The shaman prays to the Ashaninka god Tasorensi, as well as to Jesus Christ, to prevent evil spirits from entering the infusion. The evil spirits could produce chaotic visions and frighten the people who drink the ayahuasca. The shaman stores the cooked ayahuasca as quickly as possible, because this is considered to be the last opportunity for the evil spirits to enter the beverage. A thick consistency ensures that the ayahuasca will produce strong visions. The shaman stores his bottle with the ayahuasca in a special place where nobody will touch it. This batch has been made especially for tonight's ceremony, in which Miriam and Rover will participate. The ayahuasca beverage can only be consumed during the night. The ayahuasca session begins with the shaman passing his pipe to the person next to him. The pipe then circulates from one person to the other until everyone has smoked from it. It is said that the smell of the tobacco and the smoke itself protect the people from the evil spirits. Since everyone is here for their own reason, the people don't talk during the session. Miriam hopes the ayahuasca visions will tell her how threatening the floods will be this season, and if they will force her family to abandon their home. While the shaman pours the ayahuasca for the group, he communicates with the spirits by murmuring secret words, and he asks them to protect every person who is about to consume it. While the shaman prays to the spirits and to Jesus Christ to lead him successfully through the session, he recites words that he has invented. No man alive understands their meaning, and thus no one can use them against him or against his patients. After everyone has drunk some ayahuasca, the room falls silent, and each person ponders what question they would like the ayahuasca visions to answer. After 10 minutes, the lights are turned off. Soon, the ayahuasca causes strong vomiting, which purifies the body. The shaman begins to sing to calm those people who might be suffering from disturbing hallucinations. And then, the visions begin.
Tronquito y conanta, tronquito y conanta, ayahuasca conanta, pura oracióncito, oración de cielito, cielo, cielo celeste.
Miriam envisioned a yellow light shining through her house. The shaman told her that the good spirits are sending her their promise to protect her home from the floods. The next morning, Miriam and Rover return home. They share the good news from the ayahuasca session with their family, who are happy to hear that the floods will abate. Miriam is also anxious to communicate the good news to Alberto's family, her closest friends.
Hola, Claudina.
There is a shortage of food in Alberto's family, so while the men went hunting, the women caught some beetles for their breakfast. Rich in protein and without an ounce of fat, beetles are a recommended food source in every How to Survive in the Jungle manual.
Omo pongo stekani rinyahiro, iro dami inoshka.
They taste kind of like shrimp, and they serve to satiate the children's appetites until more food is available. The food shortage has sent Alberto and his 3 sons deep into the flooded forest to hunt for birds, rodents, monkeys, boar, deer, tapir, or any other game they come across. Pablo is only 12 years old. He has come along to learn how to hunt. His older brother, Joel, is responsible for keeping an eye on him during their outing in the forest. Soon, Joel will be recognized as a master hunter and as a man. But first, he must complete his rite of passage by successfully hunting and killing a deer or a tapir. Snakes are less active during the rainy season because they have no ground to crawl along. But snakes are not the only danger that awaits hunters in the forest. When the hunt begins, the hunters split into small groups to circle any would-be prey. Although they are separated during the hunt, they are never very far from each other. The hunters communicate by imitating a rare Amazonian bird called the panguano. After a few hours of hunting, Alberto decides to send me and his two youngest sons home. He will continue hunting only with his eldest son. Alberto and his son do not want to return home empty-handed, and they are prepared to stay overnight in the forest if necessary, even though the only nourishment they have with them is coca leaves. After another stormy night, we have awoken to a peaceful and tranquil morning. The waters have risen again, but the shining sun makes the floods seem less menacing. During a breakfast siesta, Miriam tells me that whenever the high waters surround her home, she is reminded of her childhood and the time when the floods forced her family to abandon their home.
Ahí al frente había una balsa de madera, ¿sí? Y ahí mi mamá, todos hemos estado ahí, las gallinas, todo ahí en la balsa, porque todo había tapado la casa, todo, hasta la ventana, pues todo había tapado. Y solo mi papá había quedado ahí, había puesto 2 tablas para que duerma ahí cuidando sus cosas, porque todas las cosas se habían tapado, sus libros, todos se habían mojado. Nosotros estuvimos en la balsa y tanto que corría inmenso el río que mi padre nos llevó a otro sitio a buscar tierra en la altura. Ahí hemos ido. Y cuando regresamos, cuando ya el agua estaba mermando al tercer día, regresamos, hubo rastros de lagarto. ¿Qué sería, no? Lo que le salía del cuarto. Pero mi papá me contaba de que como él dormía arriba, cuidando sus cosas, dice que el bujeo se paseaba, o sea, los delfines se paseaban. Decía, ¿qué cosa es? Entonces alumbra mi papá, total, el señor bujeo era, que se estaba paseando ahí en el cuarto. Ah, un delfín. Pero dejó rastro, los lagartos, ¿qué sería? Pues tantos animales ahí.
This was the last time I filmed Miriam, and just before I packed my things and left her house, she told me that she will never leave her home, at least not until the dolphins return to swim through her house again. I know if something bad were to happen, her neighbours would be there to help her, in the same unselfish way that she and her family has helped them. If I ever return to this part of the Amazon, I hope to find Miriam and her tribe still here. I also hope that their god, Tassorensi, will always help them and keep them united.